Good afternoon, fourth grade. Today we're going to continue studying the Declaration of Independence. So we have another article, but before we get started, we have a quick write. It says, why was Great Britain willing to go to war with the American colonists? Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the focus question. It says, how did the colonists declare independence? Why did the colonists declare independence from Great Britain? Our vocabulary words today are tyrants, and those are people who want power in a cruel way. So you would draw an arrow to this king that has the sword. He kind of looks evil. He looks like a tyrant. The next word is liberty. That means freedom. So we would draw a picture to Lady Liberty. She is a symbol of freedom in America. And the last one is proclaimed, and that's to declare something in a very public way. You can draw a line to this picture of the guy with the megaphone. Go ahead and turn the page, and before we start reading, we are going to turn our title, the Declaration of Independence, into a how or why question. And so we would say, why did the colonists declare independence from Great Britain? Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready to read. And as we're reading, we are going to underline the answer to this question. We're at Deering. During the years before the Revolutionary War, more and more colonists wanted independence. Patriots gave speeches urging the colonists to take up arms and fight the British tyrants. Patrick Henry, a patriot from Virginia, gave a famous speech to the legislature of his state. Patrick Henry proclaimed, "I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death." And so this paragraph hasn't quite answered our how or why question yet. We still don't know why they want independence, but we do know that they are talking about it. Let's keep reading. As fighting for the war spread, many more colonists became convinced that they needed to cut ties with Britain. They still considered themselves British, but the king was not respecting their rights. So we would underline this sentence because it does give us a reason why the colonists wanted independence. The king was not respecting their rights. Let's keep reading. They stood together as colonists to defend themselves and their interests. Before long, they would call themselves Americans. On May 10, 1775, representatives from every colony met at the Second Continental Congress in Philadelphia. They gathered in response to the battles of Lexington and Concord. The representatives agreed the time for negotiating with Britain was over. They decided that the Congress should rule the colonies and they should declare independence. The Continental Army was formed and George Washington was named its leader. Washington came up with a plan to battle the British troops. Thomas Jefferson drafted the Declaration of Independence. It took him a little more than 2 weeks. Although he was only 33 years old, Jefferson eloquently wrote why the colonists did not want British rule. He listed all the rights that every man deserved. He wrote that Britain was denying the colonists these rights. And that's another reason why the king was not respecting their rights, and another way of saying that is that Great Britain wasn't giving the colonists the rights they deserved. Keep going. The Declaration of Independence clarified the values of the colonists. The war was not just about taxes, it was about freedom. Turn the page. It was about the relationship of any government to its people. Finally, the war was about the responsibility of the government to protect the rights of the people. So when we are thinking about our main idea, why the colonists declared independence from Great Britain, we know that it's because the British government wasn't respecting and protecting their rights. So in box 1, we would write, the colonists declared independence from Great Britain because the British government was not respecting and protecting the rights that the colonists believed they should be given. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready to keep going. In box 2A, it says, why did the colonists want independence from Great Britain? And so one of the reasons given in our text, in the second paragraph, says because the king wasn't respecting their rights. So in 2A, we would write the colonists did not think the king was respecting their rights. Therefore, they believed their only option was to separate from Great Britain. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for 2B. It says, why did the colonists gather at the Second Continental Congress? And if we go to the third paragraph, it says, they gathered in response to the battles of Lexington and Concord. So in 2B, we would write down, the colonists gathered at the Second Continental Congress to figure out how they would respond to the battles of Lexington and Concord. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for box 3. It says, what decisions did the Second Continental Congress make? And if we go back in this paragraph, it tells us that they decided that Congress should rule the colonies and they should declare independence. That's the first thing. And then the second thing was they formed the Continental Army and made George Washington its leader. So in box 3A, we would write down the 2 reasons. The first one on the first group of lines, we would say the colonists decided that Congress should rule the colonies and they should declare independence from Great Britain. Press pause to write down the first part of 3A and play when you're ready for the next part. In the next group of lines for 3A, you should write, they also decided to form the Continental Army, and they named George Washington its leader. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for 3B. It says, why did Thomas Jefferson write the Declaration of Independence? And if we go to our fourth paragraph, that's about Thomas Jefferson writing the Declaration of Independence. We know that in his declaration, he explained why the colonists didn't want British rule. And that's because King George III was denying their colonists the rights that they deserved. So in box 3B, we would write, Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence to explain to King George III that he was denying the colonists the rights that they deserved, which is why the colonists needed to separate from him. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for box 4. It says, what is the structure of the text? And if I go back and look at my text, I see the words during the years right before the Revolutionary War. I see May 10th, 1775. And then it talks about Thomas Jefferson writing the Declaration of Independence, and I know that happened in July of 1776. And so I would say that the structure of the text is in the order of time, which means the structure of the text is chronological. And then I would write my reason in box 4. Press pause to write your answer in box 4 and play when you're ready for the paragraph. The paragraph says, why did the colonists declare independence? And you can use your main idea, and you can also use box 3.